On behalf of the DocPlexus marketing team. I'm here to welcome you all for today's webinar. We are having the last webinar of our 7-year campaign, and I absolutely thank you all for being such a wonderful part of this journey for the E7 weeks. We have covered a lot of topics in the past, from medical, socio-medical areas for finance and digital marketing. Now, in the last webinar on digital marketing, we are covering the topic of leveraging social media and how you can use your personal branding to increase your practice. Now, without taking any more time, I would move ahead with the topic. I would be taking ahead the introduction of the topic, followed by Dr. Priyanka and Dr. Swastik. Now, moving ahead, the first question that comes up to us is why do we need to go online? And why do patients actually seek online medical advice? Now, there are particularly three reasons which they go out for, which is either for information, for advisory, or either for finding the right physician. Now, what if that you were about to start offering these services on social media? Will it stop the patients from coming to you? It won't happen in such a way that if you are posting any information there to increase your practice, people would not be coming up to you and seeking your medical advice. Instead, this will help them gather all the information that they have to share predominantly, and then they will be ready with all the information when they need a physician, and obviously they'll think of you. Now, let me demonstrate this with an example of a small case on SEO optimization. Now, when I see that I need a hair transplant surgeon for myself, I need to go out and I need to understand what all complications are there, who might be the correct doctor for me, and most importantly, will I be suffering from any side effects or any other complications? So when I go to YouTube, I search for hair loss treatment in my city, I get these options. Now I have, for confidentiality purposes, I have blurred the sound. So what we'll do is we have seen that there are 10 results from the search, but what happens is the first four areas where the results which we can see is of the same doctor, and he has provided his details in both English and in Hindi. So what happens is they are very keen and they have modified their content in such a way that it is readily available for consumption for both the English speaking people as well as the vernacular audiences. So this way you are covering a huge area by catering to all categories of your audience, which we will be discussing again in the presentation ahead. Now, another case is there where I was searching for the best gastroenterologist in Pune so that I can check their recommendations. Now, though there might be any other listings too, as well as other websites which recommend me doctors for the same location, but what I see is prominently there are two doctors who are already available in my Google search because they have listed their business on Google. Now, if I see that there are doctors on Tracto who have better reviews, and there are doctors who have better ratings, but then again, it is most importantly which are the doctors which come on my screen first, so that I can see them, I can check whether they are readily available and how their services are. Now, as you can see, there are a decent amount of reviews and the ratings on both the doctors, so it makes me not go further and look on other websites and just go ahead with these two doctors. Now, how you can use the social media other than just your practice. Now, most importantly, as we all know, people try to gain a little bit of information about their symptoms and about their disease. And what happens is there are areas where people would like to know further on what they are suffering from, and this part can be handled by a doctor by educating people on the diseases. Now, as we all know that sinus is a very common problem which we can see is very prevalent in India, and it almost kicks in during the winter seasons and autumn season. Now, sinusitis, educating people on these areas, especially in their local languages as well, and creating in-depth videos on what would help them and how should they tackle these diseases really helps cater your specialty, and it helps robustify your practice because you will be the known face who they would be seeing, who have helped them understand their disease better. Now, the best part about being from Docplexus is we have easy access to the doctors and we can run out our surveys. Now, we ran a small survey where we checked whether social media is actually good for doctors and what are their viewpoints on that. Now, 80% of the doctors on our platform were actually happy about it, while 20% were reluctant. The areas which they had shown regarding the pros and cons of both the sites, what we had seen is the clinical visibility and footfalls are significantly higher when you post your practice online. Your patient interaction and education increases way better as compared to if you just do it offline. There are better connection in COVID times because there are a lot of myths and there are a lot of false statements which are put out by people, and to debunk those it is really helpful to put your word out from an expert on social media. And obviously staying updated with the latest healthcare news is really important because half of the times most of the information is lost in translation and it doesn't reach the correct people. Now, the major problem in what doctors face while using social media is they find it too risky to use because obviously there is a area of confidentiality, plus there are risks of information going by into the wrong hands. Now, things also take place that they go viral really quick in case they are wrong, and takes less amount of effort to make bad things go viral than good things go viral. So, and especially the medical field is a really critical one, and how people go by it, it is really necessary to take care of what you post online. Then again, it takes too much of time and effort to post on social media. You have to gain your momentum, you have to keep on posting, you have to understand what people are liking, what they aren't, and these things require constant monitoring. Now, what we try to do is we try to map these things out, and we plan to help you out in much better way so that you can understand how do you manage your practice better. So the time and effort part is obviously a negative aspect where you have to put in a lot of effort, but then again, what you will sow is will be bearing fruit. Now there are a few doctors who have surpassed that age where they can understand social media, but then again, it's a really easy tool. A few more clicks and then you'll be ready with everything that you need to showcase your practice from. Moving ahead, I will just describe the agenda of what we will be discussing today. Now, we will show you on how the entire social media fits into the patient cycle, right from advice till the outpatient in case they are interacting with you. We will also be discussing on what the pitfalls are there in the social media area when we discuss medicine, so that we do not put out information which are there without any substantial information or definite research, so that we do not fall into any trouble by making a statement which is false. Also, we want to leverage how social media can be used to entrust your practice and not erode your personal brand, so that you keep on giving out vital information to your patients so that they can trust you, they can come to you for advice, and how to deal with patients who are not satisfied with you so that you do not erode your personal brand, and how do you take care of it properly. And ultimately we'll describe how do we use these two tools, most importantly the Facebook and Insta Live features, where you can describe what your practice is, discuss all the new happenings around you, and give updates to your patients regularly. Now, what I will do is I will give this presentation, I'll take this ahead, and I'll request Dr. Priyanka so that she can elaborate other points and give you better insights on this. So over to you, Dr. Priyanka.
Sorry for the technical glitch. Well, Yash, thank you so much for your brief discussion over it. Now I will be covering a few points, which will be the how social media fits the patient cycle, how to avoid certain pitfalls in the social media, and further it will be elaborated by Dr. Swastik. Now, to start with devising your social strategies, it becomes utmost important to also understand how the patient cycle fits your yeah. There are four broad categories in which the patient fits this cycle, and there are four stages to describe more. These are discovery, consultation, hospitalization, and outpatient. Discovery merely means that patient knows about his or her illness or is diagnosed recently with a certain condition, and about which he or she is going search over the internet. Consultation meaning patient has decided to seek medical advice and now is looking for an effective and an affordable service. Before going to a doctor, patient relies on these peer reviews as well as other patient reviews which are readily available on social media. Hospitalization, well, it might be subjective to the people who to the doctors who facilitate hospitalization or who have inpatient departments, but it is similar for somebody who is giving a daycare services or also for an inpatient department. So at hospitalization, now once the patient is hospitalized or has is undergoing treatment, he or she is also looking to corroborate his or her medical illness as well as his or her treatments and experiences with others, as well as seeking second or third opinion. Outpatient also follows as the follow-up criteria or the outpatient department that many healthcare providers have. Here, now by now, after repeated follow-ups or undergoing a particular surgery or a particular treatment, the patient is also now well aware and has his own experience and knowledge which he is looking to share further with his peers or also with his own relatives through the means of social media. Now, if you look into these four stages, which normally are relevant to all of us as healthcare providers, there are certain strategies that one could use for for all the stages. For discovery, it is very important that one releases or publishes relevant content on illnesses and conditions. If you see here on the left, there is a screenshot posted which is a brief description of what RTMS is. If you view the entire blog and if you view the entire article, it is basically giving a patient the rough idea of what the procedure is all about, and also it is written in a very layman language, so which is not much scientific, which is easily understood by everybody. The effect of this is on the right side of the screen, which is another screenshot when this particular doctor who belongs from Ahmedabad has used this blog and has used the social media to post relevant content. So whenever a patient looks up for this particular procedure, that is RTMS in Ahmedabad, the red dot, what you see is the doctor will have more of an impact on the others who read this review or are in search of a certain clinical service. Now, hospitalization and outpatient are two such areas where, again, you can focus your clinical services, where you can avoid being being too much scientific, but also posting updates of, say, before and after pictures of a surgery that you have recently performed, or any recent clinical services that you rendered to a patient and he or she was happy. But keeping in mind all the consent and all the security breaches that you should not be dealing with. Here, if you see the screenshots, the doctor has very briefly also described what he or she has that you should not be and also has asked for peer reviews, as well as he is inviting his fellow physicians to comment on it, which also then makes it a communicative atmosphere for the doctors to engage with you. Now, for to decide what social strategy do you want to go with, there are certain factors that you should be considering. First is the location. Is your practice based in a city? Are you looking at a statewide approach, or are your patients present nationally, or do you also want have a global involvement? So in this cases, for example, if you have in a particular city or in a particular state, there is always the help of the vernacular language that you could take. Make sure that the content that you're creating then is in dual languages. That is, it can be either in Hindi and it can be also in English. If a patient is basically from Gujarat and the doctor's practice is also in Gujarat, make it a point that your content released is both in both languages, English as well as Gujarati. Considering the age factor, it has become very important to also then divide your target patients into certain criteria based on the age. Whether do you want to focus your patients or do you want to target your social media presence on Facebook or for example on Instagram, would obviously be obviously depend on the age group that you cater to. For example, if you're somebody who is in a mix, or who is also a cosmetologist or as a hair transplant surgeon, for example, like how Yash had initially elaborated, the two common points that you get is a middle-aged man. So you know that that particular group of people might be more active on Facebook. If you are a dermatologist and you want to also give or share knowledge or information regarding acne, and if you know that the teenagers are the most targeted people or focused people looking out for treatment for acne, so then you know that Instagram would be your choice. So similarly, once you have rated out your preferences on what patient targeting do you want to do based on your location, based on your age, and based on your gender, you could also strategize your social presence accordingly. It becomes important to let the patients know about the income and the insurance status. Income status being whether the patient can afford your clinical services or not, and whether your clinical facility or your hospital provides cashless or CGHS or provides other insurance for reimbursement. This becomes important as a tool for the patient to then judge and take an informed decision whether to consult you or whether to seek treatment from you or not. And it helps you avoid negative feedbacks that many people face because of the similar issues, which towards the end are always credited to these monetary functions. Now, moving on to the next part, wherein you want to also avoid. I'm so sorry for the. Yeah. So here is a perfect example wherein a doctor trying to target patients nationwide has created content on his YouTube channel, wherein he has kept both his Hindi and English posts live for people to see, and when in use but are also matching with the latest trends. For example, during the COVID situation, there were a lot many myths that the patients had, or potential users and your viewers had. So the doctor has perfectly explained all these points through the means of a video, which again is not a long video, but in short 2 to 3 minutes, which can be explained. So it also becomes important to optimize your practice and details according to the regional language, which will help you in the future. And growing practice through social media helps in being the also the thought leader. Now we've seen a lot many social media platforms, and you might also think which one to go for. So there are a lot many media channels, social media channels that are available. For example, there's Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. For Facebook, a physician having a page on Facebook also gives him a wider base of viewers, and also gives him a chance to get in touch with his existing patients as well as acquire new ones, wherein LinkedIn becomes an effective way to position yourself as an industry partner, as well as also help you communicate with your peers, other healthcare providers and physicians. YouTube can be a mix of all the social media platforms that you take care of, but YouTube can also help you enhance your passion, which talking about your passion on a video, or speaking about your passion over a video of the clinical practice that you do or the surgical techniques that you carry out, or any recent advances more passionately on YouTube, will also engage your viewers as well as increase the reach of your content. Instagram, going with the latest trends of social media, many of you must be aware that Instagram is one of the trendiest social media platform that the youth as well as many people use. And here, what you can do is engage the audience with your pre and post treatment images, like I illustrated earlier. It could also be used to tell your story. You should be using Instagram to post photos which tell your story, which tell the story of your health care facility, which might also involve your staff members, which can be your nurses or your other healthcare professionals that work at your facility. So once you build that story, it also becomes very engaging for people to also come and view, and always the stickiness of the point is correctly used. Pinterest is something which for people who don't know, Pinterest is something where 80% of the audience is female, and it makes it easier for obstetrics and gynecology doctors or pediatricians to have a more approach and reach on it. Now, since you know that creating and maintaining a strong social media presence could be the difference between the success and failure of your online perception and engagement of your media practice. You now have the ability to interact with patients, physicians, staff members, and other hospitals, and presenting countless opportunities to engage with these people, which weren't in existence 10 years ago. But with with this power, there comes a lot of responsibility. So as we just discussed, how you as a physician can strategize and have a social media presence. Now let's discuss some don'ts regarding the same. Now, if you see on the left, we have listed out what you shouldn't be doing. That is, first of all, services that you provide. It is one of the most commonest mistakes that many physicians make. They use the social media to be this megaphone wherein they can shout out about their medical practices or medical practice or their personal brand. So if you see that there has to be a balance between the content that you produce. Should not just be about all your should only not be about the promotions. For example, if you just want to tell people about your new advancements or the new technology that you have just adopted, you should not be then maybe focusing on only just that, but understanding the patient's value. You should be understanding the patient's requirement. You should be using social media to create more awareness rather than just self promoting yourself. And also, it is very important that you interact with these users or interact with these patients who follow you on certain social media platforms. For example, if you have anything if you have a comment, reply to it promptly. If a patient asks you a question on a social media platform, do address it. Make them feel that they are important too. Now, excessive ads of your deals and offers is another thing which might get you initial viewership, but later on, people might not be interested in looking at your page or what you want to share, because it is something which might not be apt for them, or it might be not relevant for what they're looking for. Ideally, the three things that you shouldn't be doing is disclosing the patient information, medical histories, and patient pictures. You must have heard about lot many cases where the medical licenses have got cancelled for certain physicians and clinical practitioners because they failed to hide or they had disclosed the identity of their patients while trying to also advertise their practice. So what you should do is make sure that the patient information, in case of their name, age, location, or even the face. Ideally, at these days, there is also a trend where a surgeon post surgery takes a selfie and by mistake also captures the patient in the background. This certain such mistakes should be avoided. And the medical histories is one thing. So in the future, when you want to also take a picture or post something regarding a treatment, for example, which is displayed here, it gives you a perfect and a very short example of what you should be doing. Is, for example, this is about laser hair removal. So whereas there are just 4 points which are actually relevant to the patient or relevant to a person who is browsing through internet or browsing through social media to learn more about the services. And this also becomes important as a part of wherein you keep engaging these doctors again, keep engaging and retaining your patients on the platform. Now, I will ask Swastik to take over the next part, wherein he'll be making you, wherein he'll be also sharing more on the leveraging as well as enhancing your branding. Over to you, Swastik.
Thank you, Dr. Priyanka. That was a wonderful explanation. And, good afternoon to all of you, our viewers. And obviously, this is a part which is very interesting, which I'm going to cover now, because here we are going to understand, since we are having a lot of conversation about, social media and healthcare practitioners, we also need to understand how should doctors engage when you know which are the platforms which are already there in social media, and now you understand that you can definitely utilize these platforms also going ahead. So in this particular part, there are certain tips or certain practices which will definitely help us or the healthcare community practitioners outreach their digital expansion when it comes to communication over the digital medium. So moving on, there are certain things that we will be discussing upon. Yes. Now, this particular part is very interesting because obviously now, since we all are present in various social media, and now we are looking into an angle where we can establish the clinical engagement also. In this particular case, creating visually pleasing profiles are very important. I think this is where from everything starts because as we say that profile on a digital medium is actually an introduction about yourself also, your thoughts, your vision, and the objectives, and what the audience can expect once they come onto your page, because a lot of clarification is done at their point only if the page is created properly and obviously updated with all the relevant information. So whenever you create your profiles on Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms, ensure that all the content you post looks professional as well as eye-catching. Update your social media consistently with photos and videos, having the updation of the headshot image, having a cover photo, giving some introduction, what is that can be expected, because one of the very important things that a completed profile gives us as an advantage to start with is not only it gives a very good user experience when the user is actually going through your profile or your blog, because it gives them a lot of understanding about your thought process and the objectives. But at the same time, a completed profile actually ranks much higher when search engines are used on these platforms, because obviously your profile being completed obviously gets that added advantage of having better visibility. So imagine this, you have done everything from 0 to 100% in your profile completion, and that's it. Then you have the visibility. Your search engines will definitely help you to have a better outreach. And obviously these are few examples where you can see profiles from LinkedIn, profiles from Facebook, as well as profiles from Instagram. Interesting to observe over here is that every profile is very unique as per the entire user behavior of the platform. Like for example, if you look at this particular profile, you can see that some amount of emojis have also been used, because in Instagram, that is how majority of the communications does happen among the users, and that is how the user behavior is very comfortable with. So in certain cases, adapting to this kind of learnings also, what can best work in that particular platform also helps us in creating the perfect profile. Also, I think one of the things that has been observed, in the recent times is a lot of usage of live streams and engaging posts or audiovisual posts are on the rise now. Now, in the initial days, obviously, a lot of blogging activities was being done where, a lot of static content was being placed. But in the recent times, what we have also seen, and it has been observed on a very positive note, that, live streaming gets a bigger response than any other type of visual, including which includes photos as well as videos also. Now you can live stream image of your practice, broadcast your lectures, and obviously set aside time to answer health related questions live, which is obviously known as a Q&A live session, which has been very well accepted in the recent times, and it's very much trending also on the social media. It's very quick, it's short, but at the same time it's very strong when it comes to actually impacting your audience, because that is the real-time communication which is being facilitated through a live stream, actionable. So in this particular case also, a few aesthetic factors have to be kept in consideration, where a brief introduction, the title of the whether it is a podcast, whether it is a live stream webcast, the title has to be very impactful. It can definitely include words which are very highly searched keywords on the platform, like advice, coaching, best, very simple keywords, but definitely helps your content to again have that better visibility once searched with these keywords in silos. And at the same time, it's very important to have a clear thumbnail as well as an introduction about the speaker and what can be expected out of the session also. It gives a very good I would say a peekaboo to the entire offering which is there for the audience to actually consume after a certain point of time once it is live. Also, we have seen that one of the very essential things that we definitely need to keep in consideration as a religious practice when it comes to digital engagement or social media engagement from a clinical standpoint. we always have to kind of close the loop of communication along with our close the loop of communication along with our audience. Now this particular part is very important because obviously what we have seen in the recent times is that uh, whenever we are having a digital communication, I think as Dr. Priyanka was mentioning before also, when you post any content on your professional page, obviously that content should be factual, it should be engaging, and it should always develop that curiosity among the audience who is actually consuming that content to come again and again and know better. But in this particular case, what usually happens is we have seen that in couple of situations, in couple of situations, we have seen that there is a dialogue exchange which happens on this platform. Now there will be many doctors who will be coming and they will be responding to your post. They will be sharing their own opinion. Now in this particular case, we always need to understand that allowing our patients and doctors to engage on a real-time basis is also one of the purpose of having the post done on social media, because it's having a real-time conversation, but here the medium is digital. And acknowledging their comments or their feedback is also equally important, whether it is positive or whether it is negative. Now for example, if we look at this particular post, you can see that there has been another social media page who has actually come and appreciated the post and said that they love this concept. Now this is an appreciative comment, it's just a single line comment, but you can see that this particular social media page has ensured to come back and acknowledge the positive feedback or the appreciation which has been given by one of the viewers, because this is very important, because this is closing the loop of communication and also acknowledging that particular individual's time spent on your particular post, because that particular time is very precious to you, because it starts with little and it keeps on adding time as the interest grows, and that particular amount of viewership time also heavily contributes to your entire outreach when it comes to digital expansion on any form of social media. Now it may be easier when it comes to appreciative posts, but when there are negative posts, we still have to obviously ensure that we do come back and obviously try and reply, engage with that particular audience and try to understand their point of view, and obviously handle the entire situation with the dignity and calmness. Always remember this, that whenever there is a negative comment on your post, now this is a very critical phase, because you are the person who is responsible to come and obviously reply, but there are subsequent amount of followers who are actually kind of taking a step back and looking at how you can actually come and respond to this, because at this point of time they are also eager to know what will be your response. So it's never mandatory to immediately respond to negative responses, because a lot of thinking should be there in place, because there is a social image that you will have to also maintain, not only to that individual but to others also who are following you for a reason. So obviously think about the criticality, try to find some neutral explanations, back it with facts and evidence, and then obviously come back and give your response, and also acknowledge the person's feedback in the meanwhile, so that he or she knows that you are definitely working on the answer and they can expect a reward from you very soon. This also keeps the person in that negative zone also engaged with you, and obviously there builds a fact of consideration after some point of time, that that particular person took time to not only revert to me but acknowledge to me also, even if my statement was a bit deviated from his thought process. So these are very good digital practices and definitely should be practiced for a better digital outreach, I would say. Now, obviously, as we have discussed this, that it's very important when you're on a social media platform that we also need to understand that one of the areas that we are aiming for is kind of influencing influencing the audience or our target audience in some way or the other, because there is a bridge that we are trying to establish between our thought process and their understanding. In this particular process, the influence factor is very evident. So majority of the post or majority of the streams that we plan to do on social media, we should ensure that it should be very much educative in nature. It should always be about, various type of information which is very relevant in day-to-day activities, and it can contribute to that particular person's understanding, knowledge, and growth as well. So our post should always be educative in nature. It should always inspire to think better when anyone is consuming it. And at the same time, following our peers on a social media platform is very important, like following other doctors or following other influencers, because I think one of the things that social media definitely gives us as an advantage, networking. So if you do the networking well, so in network, it is not you alone, it is a lot of people and they are all interconnected. So if you network properly and if you really practice it well, where you are also growing, others are also growing, but it is all symbiotic in nature and each other has a very significant contribution in the other's growth. So there you will not only find a lot of positivity, but at the same time a lot of learning also happens by following other doctors and other influencers, because you get to understand what is working best on social media platform, what may not work, what should be practiced, what may not be explored yet. And at the same time you get a lot of referrals also, because a lot of additional visibility happens on those networks, because they may have significant amount of followers from where few people can start following you also, while showcasing your blogs or showcasing your practices on their platforms also. Now, obviously, as we have highlighted this point that live streaming has become a very much of a trending practice in the recent times, especially when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, and obviously it has become very easier also in terms of implementation. And even if with minimal setup, you can still have the live streaming practiced. But we also need to understand certain aspects when it comes to live streaming, especially if you're in that beginner position, because it definitely will help us to practice better. So in this particular case, what we have seen that whenever we broadcast live videos on Instagram or Facebook, it appears on our Instagram and Facebook stories also, and viewers can watch and interact with us in real time. So obviously, it's a very good kind of a visibility practice, I would say, and obviously it's live in nature, so it actually garners that active real-time communication. Now, there are certain factors for which live streaming is very important. Like obviously, one of the factors being it attracts the prospective patients by teasing new services and products also. Now, imagine this, like if you are a doctor who is in the initial or volume build-up stages of your clinical practice. And when you are starting a new service or a technology or having a patient activation camp somewhere nearby in your locality, or event of special occasion or special health days which you are celebrating for obviously your patients, at that particular case such live streaming options are of great use, because patient acquisition is obviously the place that we're looking forward to by doing these activities, but it is also for education and also for creating awareness among your viewers or your followers as well, and keeping them updated with the latest things that is happening in your practice life also, as well as in the healthcare domain as well. Now, in this particular case, obviously prospective patients can be attracted by teasing newer services or products. And obviously, one of the very interesting things that we have discussed sometime that Q&A sessions have become very mainstream these days. And obviously, collecting email leads by gathering questions for live Q&A is also something that is very well facilitated. Now, imagine this, that because you are having a webinar, and maybe 5 or 6 days before the webinar, you have already given a teaser on Instagram that this is a session that is going to happen and these are the topics that will be discussed upon. And now you give maybe a poll, or now you give maybe few questions or few subjective areas where doctors can actually type in their questions before the session starts. Now, in this particular case, the doctors have submitted questions to you, but they will definitely view your live stream because they are expecting an answer also. This gives you two advantages. One, you get time to prepare well, because obviously you have the questions before the live session. So now you know what answers can suit best during the live session, or what topics can be covered, which can actually answer that question there itself in the live session. Secondly, Obviously, a huge amount of viewership is also garnered because now you're not only asking the audience or your patients to engage on the post and view it, but you're also giving them an option to share their opinion or share their thoughts or share their queries with you, which is the next level of engagement or human connect of interaction. Also, one of the third things is like running a competition or a contest. Now, this is very, I would say, it's one of the very attractive practices that can definitely be done, especially when it comes to Instagram. Because one of the things, if I can share with you, is that the live streams of Instagram does not have a post archival version like a recorded version once the live session is over. Majorly, the audience will have to actually be ready for that live session, and they will have to view it entirely, because once the session is over, the video may not be present on that particular page. This particular cases are very well, it helps us running a contest or a competition, because obviously it is a great way to build your number of followers for your social channels and increase the engagement with your targeted audience. In this particular case, when you have a contest, why not use Facebook or Instagram live video to promote your contest and drive engagement? Because we all know this, everyone loves getting something in the process of the making. So running a contest to offer maybe a free product or a service is a great way to generate leads and connect with Facebook and Instagram story viewers also. So if you have a sizable audience yourself, you can get them to share their competition, encouraging people to tag their friends, so that the reach increases and your page visibility and your social media presence is now going and expanding like anything else. So this is a very good practice. But since to have this practice in the right way, there are a couple of things that we should understand as beginners when we are starting to practice live video feeds. Always, we have to announce the live video beforehand, because Instagram live is there and then it's gone. Although plenty of users do opt into push notifications that let them know what you're broadcasting, you should still announce the live video on Instagram to ensure maximum participation and obviously help build that momentum also before the actual session happens. You can consider increasing your viewership of your live story by cross promoting by multiple platforms before it starts. Like, why not use relevant hashtags? I mean, it's a very good tool in digital marketing to boost visibility and make it easier for relevant audience to find you. Now, obviously, technical testing is very important before the session starts, because one of the challenges of live session is that it is like a one take go. So it has to be a very seamless kind of an experience by the viewers also. So in order to ensure giving a seamless, kind of an experience, we have to test the sound and the video quality before you go live. I mean, maybe you can record a brief video through the Instagram camera, maybe watch it and delete it, and then you can actually start the live session, and then you can continue. Also, make sure that the background itself should be very much clean. There should be no clutter or anything. You don't want to, obviously there are certain things you don't want your viewers to see. The entire focus should be on you and what you are speaking and what you are trying to actually convey to your live viewers through that engagement mode. And always go live at peak activity times. I think this is the most important thing to have a successful webcast session done, because it's always good to know that which time slots can be there when your audience is most active or the probability is actually higher. Now, this is very important, because since your Instagram live content only exists as long as it is actually being broadcast, but sure, you'll have to be sure that the largest amount of people will see it. Usually what we have seen that afternoons and early evenings are often the times when plenty of our users are online. That is why we have chosen the afternoon session also for our webcast series. And at the same time, we will also have to consider having our followers redirected to our blog and website. So whenever you're having a web streamed, a live session done, always include your other platform or social media page handles also there as a clickable link, because obviously the sole purpose is for our audience to view the session, but at the same time, I think acquisition is something which never stops, and obviously growing the followers is something that is one of the major motives of having these sessions done. So at that particular point of time, if someone just looks at, okay, fine, this particular doctor has a Facebook page also, the link is there, he can just click on that link, he can land onto your page, he can spend some time, and definitely eventually he may start following you also. And that is how your other channel trafficking also gets increased from one point to many points. So I think the simplistic word for this will be, again, networking from one to many and from many to one. So that is how it is. And obviously, in this era, Facebook and Instagram Live is a marketing opportunity not to be missed. It doesn't matter whether you are a general practitioner, orthopedic surgeon, bariatric surgeon, or a family physician as well. Videos can come in handy for grabbing the attention in any social media page. So don't let this opportunity bypass you. Now, obviously, coming to the conclusion part of this presentation, I would like Yashvardhan Lohia to obviously conclude it, and at the same time, we can go ahead with the Q&A session as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Swastik, for such a wonderful and insightful presentation. Thank you, Priyanka. So we have received a couple of questions on this webinar. I would like to discuss the same on the webinar right now with you people. Also, if we are missing any kind of questions that you have put out in our comment section, there is still time. You can put it out there, or just in case if we do not have the time to answer your queries right here, right now, we will be emailing those queries to you.
There is this very fine line that all the healthcare providers need to understand, that your telemedicine platform and your social media platforms are going to be two different things on which a patient or a potential patient is going to weigh you on. You building your presence, you building your perception, and engaging on your social media platform will then lead to that particular patient to also view you on one of these platforms which provide telemedicine portals. So there are many out there in the current market. To name a few, there is Librade, which is also under GoodMD, or there is Practo, which could be used for the teleconsultation. But make sure that you are also present on social media for somebody to discover you, like I had earlier explained these stages. So for a patient to discover that somebody like you exists in their particular clinical expertise that they're seeking, it becomes important to define the both of the strategies differently and then have your presence. Moreover, for your teleconsultation profile, also like Swastik said, it becomes very important for you to complete and update your profile and provide all the necessary information that a patient might seek from you. Thank you, Yash.
Thank you, Dr. Priyanka. I guess people have a better idea of telemedicine and setting up their own practice online. So I would direct my next question to Dr. Swastik. We have a healthcare professional who's asking whether he can use their personal profile for general awareness and keep their professional one differently.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, Yash. So thank you to the viewer. And obviously, as we have covered in our discussion also, that usually what we recommend as a best practice is to keep the personal and the professional page very separate. Now, when we say that it is separate, it obviously means that these are two different entity pages where you have been portrayed yourself to be very different from one another. But at the same time, the content which goes on these two pages is best to keep it separate as well. Now what happens majorly is like we have to one of the areas which we are focusing while doing this separation activity is that professional page becomes the basic area where we want to actually garner more viewership and followership, because that is like the clinical engagement page that we are trying to manage. Now what happens if we start posting content on personal page, even if it is awareness also, many of the followers, they may not understand that now which page to go and actually follow for regular updates, because updating is one thing, keeping a regular track of kind of creating a behavior of those audience is also very important, because through time, once the audience starts consuming content on your professional page, a small introduction can be given that this is like a World Diabetes Day. These are the few tips and tricks that young generation diabetologists should utilize. Please find below the link to actually go through the video and also understand better. So that visibility can definitely be placed on a personal page where it's very minimal, it's just like a peekaboo. And obviously, once the users engage and clicks the link, they end up in the professional page. And again, the entire educational architecture is kind of confined within that area only, which suits best.
Thank you, Dr. Swastik. That is actually a wonderful way to divert your traffic entirely from your personal profile to your professional profile by giving them a leeway or a gateway to their practices. Now, we have another question for Dr. Priyanka, which we have a healthcare professional who asks, how much time do they need to actually dedicate to these social media activities so that they have the best possible outcome?
Thank you, Yash, for the question. So normally it can also range from the type of strategies that you want to follow. Do you want to consider it as one of your primary strategies to enhance your marketing or to enhance your social presence? At times, many people do not have the time to spend much of the time along the week. What you can do is start with a schedule, like how we all digital marketers at DocPlexus also have a particular schedule and a content calendar on basis of which we decide when to when to post certain pictures or when to post certain videos. Similarly, doctors who do not who have a limited time at hand to spend on social media, what you could do is you can dedicate 1 or 2 days in a week wherein you spend some time, and also make sure that you interact. For example, if you've already posted a picture, make sure that then you're interacting or replying to the comments or the questions that you have received from your patients or from potential patients or any other viewer that is viewing your content on the social media. But I think the current trends and the survey that we carried out, based on that, there's almost 78% of the healthcare professionals who spend average of 15 to 20 minutes on a daily basis. Maybe it might be during the commute to their workplaces or back from it. So these are the times when you can actually manage to update your social media, or if you have something which involves a daily and a dynamic process of maybe clinical outcomes or surgical outcomes, it hardly takes you 10 minutes to post it. But then always ensure that also you are giving your feedback or you're commenting to these viewers who post any comments or ask you any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Priyanka. So we have this small question. It is more of a follow-up that was asked in our last question with Dr. Swastik. Now, the healthcare professional actually asks how important it is to keep your professional and your personal account separate. And definitely by managing two accounts, it might be very difficult for them to handle and to keep track of what they are posting in their personal accounts and their professional accounts. So how do you suggest them that they go by it and they make sure that one doesn't shadow the other one?
Correct. So yes, I think obviously this question is relevant because whenever we are speaking about two accounts, obviously there are a lot of roles and responsibility thought process also which builds up in managing and doing justification to both of these accounts. But one of the things that has actually, I think this entire job has been made much easier by this digital social media platforms also. Like, let's consider Facebook. Now, Facebook has created a very, beautiful interface where if you log in as a personal account, your professional account is actually a subset within your personal account only. So you don't have to do separate logins to actually access your professional account, because there is this concept of clone accounts which are now which have now been established in Facebook as well as Instagram also. And whenever a person is kind of logging in their personal account, still Facebook will be showing some notifications of engagement, activity levels, and certain things that can be still done better to actually improvise the professional account within the notification feed of the personal account only. So the transition between these two accounts are actually very easy because it's all in the same place. There is a very thin line of differentiation, but that is not very that is not very visible to us as users or as engagers, but definitely that is there from the technology end. Another one thing is that we have to understand that our personal account engagement is very much there cannot be always consistency in that. It may not always have a plan to it, because that is why it's a personal account. The engagement levels and the activities that we usually practice over there are very much as per the situation, as per the need, as per our engagement interest. But in a professional account, things become a bit better planned. Now, for example, Dr. Swastik has a personal account, and he may be logging 6 to 7 times in a day to just go through his Facebook feed and just to see what others are posting and what is happening. But when Dr. Swastik switches to his or her professional account, at that particular point of time, he knows that maybe in this particular week, I will have to at least publish one post so that my audience are engaged. And then maybe I will have to do one poll activity after 6 to 7 days just to take a feedback of how that particular post was from my followers, because I will have to create a momentum of ensuring that they are engaged, which may not be the requirement in a personal account. So that is how the differentiation happens. And definitely, I think it's all about practice. It may start with a bit of a difficulty in the sense things are new to us in different ways. But obviously, once we kind of understand our user behavior in the professional account, then definitely it's not a challenge anymore. And obviously, we can see a lot of successful professional accounts also having huge amount of followers, and they are actually influencers in today's clinical engagement world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swastik. That was really nice of you to elaborate every bit and piece of that information. So I would like to thank all the viewers who are live right now and all those who have attended this session. It was really wonderful interacting with you. Thank you for all your questions, for all your queries. I hope we have done justice to the topic. We have addressed all your queries. Just in case if you have any further questions to ask, you can simply drop by into the comment section. We will answer your questions, and we will try to answer those privately by mailing them to you. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Happy Doc Lexi.